And our next speaker is a teenager who knows really all too much about cancer. I am not going to tell you his story because he does it so well himself. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm welcome for an amazing young man, Stephen Sutton.
Hello everyone. God, there's quite a lot here. My name's Stephen. I'm 19 years old. And first of all, I'm just going to tell you a bit about me. And essentially, I'm just a normal kid. There's a cute picture of me in primary school. Oh, how cute. Like I said, normal kid. Went to high school as normal. There's me doing county level cross-country running, for example. I also did county level athletics. There's me setting my school's under 15 400-metre record, which to this day still stands. I also played football for numerous teams, including Walsall Football Club at one point. And I also played cricket, rugby, basketball, all sorts. And I only put this photo up for the incredible kit we had to wear, because it's something else, isn't it? I was also a drummer in a local band. And I was studying hard at school with the ambition of becoming a doctor. I mean, a good old biology lesson. And like I say, I was a normal teenager. For example, here's me at Reading Music Festival. I'm the guy in green. And I was feeling pretty content with my life. But then, dun dun dun, unfortunately, 3 years ago, well, 3.5 years ago, age 15, I was diagnosed with cancer. After 6 months of crippling symptoms, I underwent surgery, got a cool 21-centimetre scar down my stomach, and 6 months of chemotherapy, which made me sick and tired and all sorts. But then I was in remission, cancer-free. Woo! However, that was short-lived, and I found a lump behind my knee, and the cancer had returned. I then underwent more surgery, some more cool scars, chick-stick scars, that's all right, and then 30 sessions of radiotherapy. Again, they thought I was in remission, cancer-free. Woo! But then again, the cancer returned. At this point, I then underwent more chemotherapy, which made me even more sick and tired, and then I had some scan results. And the scan results showed that despite all the treatment, the tumours had continued to grow. So at this point, they were just chopping off my left leg. Before they had a chance to do that, however, the cancer had spread elsewhere. I've since had more cancer in my groin, pelvis, back of my calf, and since underwent more surgery, chemotherapy, surgery, chemotherapy, and the next step for discussing is a potential amputation again. Phew. So, briefly put, that's my not-so-brief medical history. And kind of the main reason I'm here, I guess, because as you can see, I've been through a lot these last couple of years, but more significantly, I've learnt a lot. And not least, I'm still here, and I'm still smiling, and I'm still here and smiling because of the support of others, which I'll move on to later. But yeah, generally, I've just learned to be as positive as possible. What I've found is a positive attitude links to positive outcomes. And I've learned not to feel sorry for myself either, so none of you guys should feel sorry for me as well. Unfortunately, though, it has got to a point where my disease has been described as incurable by the doctors. I do not know how long I've got left to live. But one of the reasons for that is because I haven't asked. And that's because I don't see the point in measuring life in terms of time anymore. I would rather measure it in terms of what I actually achieve, I'd rather measure it in terms of making a difference, which I think is a much more valid and pragmatic measure. And I'm here to encourage you to have a similar outlook. One of the things I've been doing is last year, on January 7, 2013, I made a Facebook page called Stephen's Story, and on it, I made a bucket list of 46 things I want to achieve in the near future. So that's just a wish list. So I thought I'd go through some of these things now. One of them was to set a world record. So there's been an attempt for the world's longest continuous group drum roll, which is over 30 hours, and it was knackering. Another thing was to host a charity dinner party, which I called Come Dine with Steve. It went down very well. I was also trending on Twitter. Yes. So what this means is I was the most talked about thing on Twitter that evening. I looked at the statistics afterwards. Does anyone remember the boy band, JLS? They trended for 5 minutes, and I trended for 30. So I conclude, I am trendier than JLS. Woo! As well, one of the things on the list was to do some public speaking. So I started off doing this just in front of my old high school, and I've done places down in Street, and here I am now. As well, another thing on the list was to skydive. So there's me jumping 15,000 feet out of a plane. Good fun. Next thing on the list was to get a tattoo. Does anyone remember the kind of troll dolls with the funky hair? Yeah. I've got one of them tattooed underneath my armpit, with my armpit hair doubling up as a troll doll's hair. You know, I thought it was pretty creative. But it's about not taking things too seriously. Another thing on the list was the crowd surf in a rubber dinghy. So there's me doing that at Slam Dunk Festival, as you do. And another thing on the list, for example, was the drum in front of a huge crowd. I ended up doing this in front of 90,000 people live at Wembley and a TV audience of approximately 200 million. It was for the UEFA Champions League final last year. Pretty huge. It was Bayern Munich versus Borussia Dortmund. Before kick-off, I was one of 400 pre-match performers who got to walk out on the turf of Wembley, and it was an awesome experience. And I've had loads more awesome experience, but I've only got 15 minutes to talk, but these slides could go on and on and on and on, and I've done all this in 1 year. And what I want you to think about is this, that in a way, it's a bit of a shame, you know, that I've had to rely on tragedy, i.e. in the form of cancer, to remind me to have a good time, to remind me to do something. You know, it shouldn't be like that. If we want to go out there and achieve stuff, we should go do them. You know, life is for living. I've got this quote up on the board. It's quite a long one, so I'll explain it. But it involves money and a bank account, so a wealth management company, hopefully, perfect audience for it. But the quote says, Imagine that you had a bank account that at the beginning of every day got £86,400 put into it, but at the end of every day, that money disappeared. Now, imagine, you take that money out, wouldn't you? You'd take it out, spend it on yourself, you'd give the money to someone else, you'd take the money out and store it. You wouldn't let this £86,400 disappear. Well, you are given this bank account. Unfortunately, it's not money, but it's time. Everyone in this room is given 86,400 seconds at the beginning of the day to do whatever they want with it. And at the end of the day, you're not getting that time back. So when you look at it like that, that's why I think it's important to use the time we've got as positively and productively as possible. One of the things I've been doing is raising money for a charity called the Teenage Cancer Trust. It's not the same as Teens Unite, but the remit is similar, and that's that a teenager shouldn't stop being a teenager just because they've got cancer. And this is where St James's Place came in, because the foundation supports charities like the Teenage Cancer Trust. So I'll just tell you a bit about what they do. They provide specialist wards like this, where people like me are treated. Before these wards are about, if you're under 18 and diagnosed with cancer, you got put in a children's ward with crying babies, patronising ABC toys, or an adult ward with old fogies who you didn't have as much in common with. Sorry if there's any old fogies in the room. But yeah, these wards are brilliant. I get to spend time with other people my own age. And you know, there's stuff on the ward teenagers use, musical instruments, PS3s, Xboxes, Wi-Fi on a ward for teenagers, who would have thought? And it made a big difference to me and my treatment. Also, I get to spend time with other teenagers my own age with the same illness. These are my cancer friends. We were going to go for the nickname Eggheads, but we thought that might be controversial. But all these teenagers there have had cancer, and from a common experience, we've just formed an invaluable support network to help each other through illnesses and help each other through life. Final thing I'm going to talk about that the charity does is they fund a conference. This conference is attended by about 200 young people from up and down the country with cancer. The conference, rather darkly, is called Find Your Sense of Tumour. That's the genuine name of it. Honestly, yeah. As I say, it's attended by young people with cancer, and then there's motivational speakers talking throughout the day, there's health professionals talking about issues to do with cancer, but in the evening there's just a huge disco, a huge party. That's made the fancy dress one, Olympic theme 3 years ago. But yeah, I'm telling you about this, because at this conference there was two things that happened that changed the way I viewed a lot of things, and they were both at this kind of disco. First one was, does anyone remember the song, I Whip My Hair Back and Forth by Willow Smith. There's a few nods, but I'm not going to sing it, don't worry. But the lyrics go, I whip my hair back and forth, I whip my hair back and forth. And there's this iconic dance where you kind of whip your hair back and forth. So imagine, you're in a room full of cancer patients. Obviously, chemotherapy or treatment for cancer can make you lose your hair. And someone requested this song, and they played it. It was hilarious. Most of the people were bald, a lot of them had wigs, and we were all just ironically whipping our baldness back and forth. Beautifully. But it was really touching, you know. And the next thing I saw, again, at this kind of conference, this guy started messing with his leg. Everyone's like, what's he doing? Next thing you know, he pulls off a false prosthetic leg, starts waving about in the air, dancing about, having the time of his life. And again, that was really touching, because that showed me that I might be a young person with cancer, but you know, cancer doesn't have to have me. It's not the cancer that defines who I am, it's how I react to it. And I would have never known that if it wasn't for the Teenage Cancer Trust. But I think that point can be expanded and extrapolated throughout life in that bad things do unfortunately sometimes happen, whether it's cancer, whether it's another illness, whether it's, I don't know. Bad things do unfortunately happen, but it's how we react to it that counts. You know, so we should all try and react in the best way possible. And things like the St. James's Place Foundation are a fantastic way of reacting, because, you know, it gives money to charities like the Teenage Cancer Trust and Teens Unite, who support people, actual people like me. Number one on my bucket list, and the most important thing to me, was to raise £10,000 for the Teenage Cancer Trust. In about a year now, I've raised 160 grand for them, which is pretty cool. Thank you. And in recognition for this, I, for example, wore, and this was 2013 Kids Count Most Inspirational Young Person. I recently got nominated for another award, The Inspired, blah. I'll be honest, I'm not too bothered about awards. Because, you know, I don't do what I do for recognition. What I have found is that the best way to help yourself is to help others, you know. Sometimes it is better to give. People have offered to fundraise for me, i.e. just for me, so I can go spend the money on stuff I enjoy. And I've said no, I would rather give it to a charity. And I'm so happy with that. You know, the best way to help yourself is to help others. And St. James's Place Foundation can be very proud of the help it gives. I'm going to end with telling you kind of why I share my story. You know, why am I stood in front of all you guys here right now? Why am I not at home feeling sorry for myself? You know, the reason is this. It's because I actually see my first cancer diagnosis as a good thing. It was a huge kick up the backside. It taught me to take nothing for granted and gave me a lot of motivation for life. Unfortunately, my later diagnosis means I might not have much time left. So personally, I'm stuck in this position with loads and loads of motivation, but not very much time. Well, I see people like yourselves. You guys have got all the time in the world to make a difference to yourselves, to make a difference to others. But what you might not have is the motivation to do that. Well, you can't give me your time to make me live longer. But what I can try and do is to give you a bit of my motivation, you know, to go out there and achieve something, to go out there and help others, to go out there and enjoy life, to continue the work of a foundation. And I'm going to say once more, to make a difference. And that's it. So if you want, check my online blog, and thanks for having me.